So welcome to everybody who's joined us. These webinars are always wonderful, but we're never quite sure how many people are going to turn up on the day versus watching them afterwards because we've got people all over the world. We seem to have a smaller group today, which is brilliant because it means we probably have a decent discussion afterwards, which is lovely when that happens. But as I say, people then end up watching them from all over the world afterwards. At least as many as turn up on the day. So people will watch this. We're very excited to be welcoming Manon today. I'm going to leave Rashu to introduce her. But I'm just going to say a little bit about conservation optimism. I'm John. I'm the director of conservation optimism. It is lovely to welcome you all here today. Conservation optimism was set up about 8 years ago in response to this. And this, although it sums up the challenge very well, this was said to us about a year ago by one of our friends in Canada. But this is somebody in the national park sector in Canada, somebody senior, and saying some of the most common challenges we face are burnout, psychological safety, ecological grief amongst both young and established conservation professionals. It's the same now as it was then. And we're actually today launching a series of 3 blogs over 3 days talking about where we are with conservation optimism in 2025. So do go and have a quick look. But basically the language that's been used for years around the climate crisis and the environmental crisis, the biodiversity crisis, are the language of fight or flight. They are crisis, emergency. Whilst we can understand why people use that language, it has a huge impact on people, particularly if they can neither fight because the whole challenge is too big, or flee because these challenges are global and there's nowhere to go. That has an enormous impact on people, particularly young people, and ecological grief, ecological anxiety within younger audiences is huge these days. So conservation optimism was set up to support, to empower, to enable conservationists. That's in the very widest sense of the word, professional and amateur, around the world. We don't care if you're wearing a khaki shirt or a business suit or running gear or whatever else you're doing. If you're engaged in trying to do something about what's going on in the world, then in our book, you're a conservationist and we're here for you. We support, we empower, we enable by sharing hope and by building capacity and community. The sharing hope bit is huge. Our 7 stories goes out every week, and that's really important. It's not about challenging the existing discourse around environmental crisis. It's about rebalancing it to say, yes, there is an enormous crisis, but there is also hope. We're getting quite good at this. We have a way of doing it. Particularly today, and these webinars are about the enabling and supporting bit. We have an amazing community around the world, and my last slide would have been a map showing all of these now 200, more than slightly over 200 amazing conservation organizations around the world which share that ethos that we need to rebalance this conversation about crisis and emergency and about what's going on in the environment and the environmental world. And one of the things we do is ask those organizations to share their lessons learned and share their skills so we can all look after each other and all help enable each other. This is very much about the enabling part of what we do. And we're absolutely thrilled to be welcoming Manon today, who's going to share some of what she's learned over the last, well, she'll tell us how long it is. I know the story, but she'll tell us. I want to welcome Manon. I want to welcome all of you. I want to hand over to Rashu, who can introduce today's webinar, and then we'll come back to hopefully having a decent conversation and some questions at the end. Lovely to see you all. Welcome.
Thanks, John. Hello, everyone. Welcome again. Before we begin, I would like to introduce myself and our team. While I do that, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box with your name, affiliation, and let us know where you are joining us from. I can already see some of you introducing yourself. I'm Resu Basel, Community Manager. within the community team of Conservation Optimism. Along with John and I, we have Holly Thompson from our Conservation Optimism team today. I heard someone saying purpose doesn't wait for perfect conditions, and coincidentally, today's webinar resonates so much with this saying. Today's webinar, entitled From Idea to Impact, Leading Ubuntu Magazine with a Global Volunteer Team, is an example of how we can build a purpose-driven conservation platform with no funding and a team you have never met in person. Today, the founder of Ubuntu Magazine, a biologist and a storyteller, Manon Verijdt, will share the story of founding Ubuntu Magazine and growing it into a thriving international volunteer-led publication. Well, I can't wait to hear more from Manon, but before we begin, a quick note on housekeeping. So this webinar is being recorded. That means this will also be on our YouTube platform. So we can watch the recording later. Please mute yourself during the session and turn your video off if possible to avoid distractions. If you have questions, please ask them in the chat box or raise your hand during the Q&A session. We will respond to them one by one towards the end. Please get ready with lots of questions because we want to make this an engaging, truly engaging web experience for all of us. All right, over to you, Manon.
Thank you so much, John, Reshu, and Holly, for having me. And thank you for everyone else for joining today. It's really always a compliment to see people dedicating their time to a webinar, even though we might be spread across the world. So without further ado, I'll start sharing my screen as well. And I hope that's working for everyone. I'm just waiting for some acknowledgement from your side, Reshu. Are you seeing my screen? Perfect. So yeah, as you introduced me already, this webinar is going to be about Ubuntu, Ubuntu Magazine, and how I started it by myself from scratch and what it has turned into in the past 4 years. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, I'll be quickly starting with who I am and why I started and how I started. I'll be telling you all about my mistakes, which are plentiful, I can promise you, and also what we have achieved in the past 4 years. And of course, as Reshu said, there is plenty of time for questions, because in the end, I never know what you want to learn from me, and I hope to shed some light on the things that might be interesting for you to hear. So let's start with me. Who am I? And yeah, where did I come from, basically? So ever since I was little, I've had a deep-seated passion for nature. And I don't know how it is for you, but for me, that started when I was little, being in the garden, watching the birds, but also hiking in the forest and just wondering about all the life that was surrounding me. That never really left. So by the time I had to choose what studies I was going to do, even then, I was quite unsure actually, because I had so many passions, but biology was really pulling me. The only problem was that I knew I didn't want to become a biologist in the traditional sense of the word. Nevertheless, I chose to become an applied biologist. And in the Netherlands, you have university, you have a degree below that basically, and you have the practical studies. And in between university and the practical studies is what we have applied biology. And this meant that I was going into the field much more than I would have if it were just the university studies, which was something that I really liked. I have always been someone who likes to work with my hands. So this combination made it I thought a perfect studies for me. I didn't have one vision or anything for the future though. So whereas a lot of people who love nature say, hey, I want to work in, I don't know, jungle conservation when I grow older, or I want to work with whales or dolphins, I never really felt that kind of purpose for myself. I knew I like nature and I want to do something with it. I feel aligned with it and I want to share it with people, especially knowing that I grew up in it. And even my neighbor wasn't as involved as I was, which I thought was strange. But I also knew that I wasn't a traditional conservationist or biologist or ever going to be, well, in the scientific field of things. Everything changed when I realized I'm a multi-passionate. And although this is a whole presentation by itself, what defines a multi-passionate and, well, why do I feel aligned with that word basically? Um, just in short, it means that I have so many passions. It means I don't have one specific goal for the future. So, as I just said, I didn't see myself becoming a scientist, dedicating my life in the next 50 years to just one species of dolphin or just one habitat somewhere in the Pantanal. And multi-passionate for me meant opening a whole world and not saying no to all the things that were basically on the side, but saying yes to everything and trying to find the dots or connect the dots in between. Now, how does that relate to the magazine and why I actually started this? So, during my studies of applied biology, I was trying to figure out as much as I could about different fields and just different interests. And one of those things was conservation. So, for those of you who know, there's an award show in the Netherlands called the Future for Nature Award. And this award gives grants to people and awards who work in the field of conservation. And I was able to attend quite a few times. And the last time I attended, I think it was 2018 or 19, I'm not even very sure. I heard a story from someone, and she was working in Iran, and it just hit home for me. It wasn't about the species that she was saving or the methods she was using, but it was about the personal story that she told me and the resilience she just, well, I don't even know the English word for this, but the resilience you could feel in her story that really impacted me. And I knew all those conservationists that I have never heard of before, they probably have a story to tell, but they don't have a platform to tell it on. And they might not even have the time because they're working so hard trying to save the species or the ecosystem that they're, well, trying to conserve. So that seed was planted a couple of years ago, but it didn't come to fruition right away. It took me until 2021 when I was sailing on the North Sea, and I thought to myself, wait, I stepped away from biology because that's what I did after my studies. I started writing a lot, but why can't I combine these two passions for storytelling and for nature and biology and conserving everything that we have and make it into one, merge it and make something better out of it? I thought of a magazine, but a magazine contains much more than just stories and, well, a topic. Because I had no knowledge about building a business, no knowledge about publishing, no knowledge about design or whatsoever. So I could have seen all these bears on the road and said, well, it's too much. I won't do it. Luckily for me, I saw everything as a project, as an experiment, and I just said, well, let's try because I can at least give it a go. I cannot lose anything because I haven't started yet. I didn't have any financial, well, I didn't put anything financially into it, so I wasn't able to lose anything. And I just went for it. But first, what is Ubuntu Magazine? Because before I tell you how I got there, it might be important to just a little bit of a deep dive and going ahead of what it really is. So, Ubuntu Magazine is a magazine about nature conservation. We started out with a broader aspect or a broader topic, which was nature conservation and sustainable travel. But right now, we are fully focused on nature conservation. Although there are many magazines online that present themselves as a magazine, many of them are just blogs online that you can read and skim through on your phone, your laptop, or your tablet. But we really publish something that you can flip through. So even though it's digital, we want to give you the feeling of something that is really tangible and feels like a magazine like the National Geographic or perhaps something else. Another important thing for me was that it's positive stories. So I don't want to raise discussion and make this a whole topic where we can go viral and discuss what's wrong or what's right. But I want to share the positive things that are happening. And I think this resonates very well with conservation optimism. And I hope also why you're sitting here today. But for me, it's important to share all the good that is being done. Because if I look back at my time when I was during my studies, what I felt was that there wasn't enough knowledge or information about all the things that were being done. And now that I'm working on the magazine myself, I actually, when I think back of it, I would like to have had that when I was younger, when I was in my studies, to know, hey, there's so much more to conservation than what I just said. Going into the Pantanal and trying to save an ecosystem there, or really focusing on the whales and the dolphins. But it's so much more and so much more diverse. And John, it's very nice that you actually mentioned this in your introduction, but the same applies to Ubuntu Magazine. We believe that everyone can be a conservationist, regardless of whether you're in a suit, in running gear, as you said, or someone just at home on the couch. To talk about the name of Ubuntu Magazine, that's actually a special one. I'll go back to the previous slide just quickly before I show you the video. Ubuntu stands for many things, but when I found the word, I read about it and it said, I am because we are. But these people from South Africa and from all over the world actually have multiple meanings of the word. And I'd like to share that with you to give you some insight in what this means for us. I am so sorry. I exported this PDF. Give me a second and I'll show you the video as it's supposed to be. Can you see my presentation again?
Oh, we can see the PDF.
Oh, you still see the PDF. Let me check. So is it correct that I now changed my file? Yes,
Yeah.
John is giving a thumb. Thank you. So let's listen to these people for over a minute, just under a minute. There we go. So as you all heard, Ubuntu has many meanings. And when I learned about it, it was I am because we are. And if you really start digging through what this means, you can say in a human context, I am me because my partner is influencing me, my parents are influencing me, my friends are influencing me. But when I heard about that, I realized for me it's so much more. Because it's not just the people around me that make who I am, but it's also where I grew up and the natural surroundings that I grew up in. So I know I am the way I am and I do the things I do because I had the fortunate, well, the fortunate, how do you say that? I was fortunate to grow up in nature. So I grew up next to a forest with the trees, with just being able to walk there, smell all the trees, and when the rain fell, the petrichor. So all these things made me who I am today. And the name Ubuntu in this magazine, well, it comes back to what we can achieve together as humanity when we also take nature into account. And when you think about Jane Goodall, who recently passed away, she says you can only take action if you care about things. And I agree so much with that. And that's what we stand for and what we hope to share with our magazine. So when I had this idea and I knew the name and I knew, okay, this is, well, what I'm going to do, I needed to take some first steps. But as I previously said, I had no prior knowledge of building a business, of actually publishing a magazine. And so I went for it and thought, I'll see how it goes along the way. The biggest problem here was that I only had a vague idea of what I wanted, like an out of focus picture. So I knew, hey, it has to be something with stories, something with nature conservation, in a magazine shape, it needs good pictures. But how am I going to do this? And what are the stories going to be about? Will I have different columns, different long form, short form? I wasn't quite sure yet. So I gathered a team or volunteers around me. um, Luckily, as I said, I decided to experiment, so I wasn't afraid to ask. And I was in a network of, well, entrepreneurs, all with their different skills and, well, things that they could do. So the first girl I talked to, she actually had nothing to do with nature conservation and no skill that I could really use. But she said, I like drawing, so I can become your illustrator. And once again, as it was just starting from scratch, I said, yeah, sure, let's do it. In turn, she knew someone who was a graphic designer. So she contacted her. She said, yeah, I'd like to go along with that and see what we can create. So a graphic designer joined the team as well. Well, in the same way, I was able to connect with a website designer, with a journalist, and some other people who are just willing to help and do whatever it required, which is the most phenomenal thing ever. Like, I don't know if you've ever asked for help, you probably have. And when people say out of their hearts, the goodness of their hearts, yeah, I'm willing to help and dedicate my time to your cause. And it doesn't matter whether it's something big or small, but I can see you're passionate about it. So here I am extending my hand and doing whatever I can. It just humbled me. Like, I'm just a girl, and that's how I felt, with an idea, with this vague, out of focus picture. And somehow people believed in me and said, let's build this thing together. So I'm going to come back to this, of course, but seeing things as an experiment has been the greatest gift to bringing this project to life. Knowing that, hey, I'm actually not risking anything because it isn't there yet. You're just learning on the go, and you're asking for help. People can often feel and taste your passion when you're telling about it. So that is the reason why they say yes. And that was the first step I took. So in October 2021, which is right after I came from that boat in Norway, I had a team of people who said, okay, let's go, we can do this. Now, there's also some mistakes that I made in that very beginning. And the most prominent one is that I promised them something that I was maybe not able to give them. And what I'm talking about is money. So because I was humbled, and I was happy that they were joining me, I was also afraid that they would say, well, I'm going to leave. I'm not getting anything in return, or this doesn't feel good, or it's taking me too long. I had all these demons in my head and reasons why they would potentially leave me. And I was afraid that my plan and my project would fail even before it got started. So I drew up a whole document stating that they would get paid as soon as possible. And I was certain of myself that I would get this whole project launched and financed within the first 2 years. Now, I can tell you one thing, we haven't had a single dollar yet in 4 years, and that is something that hurts me deeply because in the end, you hope to build something that you can, yeah, grow and that you can make and thrive with, but you need some finances to do so. Cash flow is one of the things that unfortunately are required to even have the basic things like a website and just the ability to keep on going. But I promised them something that I wasn't able to make happen. So eventually, when people realized this, they started to leave. And I wonder sometimes if I had just told them, hey, you're volunteering and we're going to build something together, if they would have stayed. Because I broke my promise, they wanted to leave. And otherwise, maybe passion would have taken over and they would have joined me in this process and journey. Luckily, everything, well, ended up well, which I'll tell you about in a couple of seconds. But that was the biggest mistake that I've made and also the biggest regret I have from starting this project. Secondly, as I had an out of focus picture idea, which was, as I said, not very well shaped, I started shaping it with too many people. So this guy that was helping me with my website, the girl that was doing my graphic design, the other girl that was being my journalist, they all had their own ideas for what they thought it had to become. And yes, I had the last say in everything, But I was also trying to give them a bit of ownership into the idea. So in the first magazine, you can see that we have a lot of things about sustainable travel. We have actually some people interviewed, like a tour guide or a tour operator. And we have other things in there that I would never share again. Not because I don't stand behind them. Like, I mean, I am still very much an ambassador of sustainable travel and sustainable living, but it didn't fit the niche of the magazine that we were trying to build. So if there's one advice I can give you, it is, even if you have so many people surrounding you, giving you advice or input about what to do with your idea, be critical and say, hey, is this truly what I want? Because you can always say yes or no. And that no wasn't, well, available to me at the moment because I was, I think, thinking from a scarcity mindset. But there is always you as a founder, as an initiator, and you can shape whatever you want to shape and stay true to that, and that will make you thrive. Thirdly, one of the mistakes I made and I'm still making is a disbalance in working in and on the organization. I'm looking at John right now because he has his screen on, which is very nice. And I don't know how that is for conservation optimism, or perhaps any of you listening working in other organizations. But when you have an organization, it's just as important to work on the organization as it is to work in the organization. And for those of you who aren't very familiar with running a business, let me quickly just give you an example of what both are. So in the magazine, we have, for example, 10 stories that we have to tell. And for these 10 stories, we have writers, we have journalists, we have editors, we have graphic designers, and so on and so on. But I, as a founder and as a manager, want to know what's going on. So I dedicate my time to editing these articles myself. I dedicate my time to going through it and making sure there's no mistakes. At least that's what I hope to filter out. So I'm working a lot of times in the business, in the end product, and I'm trying to work alongside the team to make sure the end result is what I hope it will be. Working on the magazine, however, is more thinking about the strategy. How are we going to raise the funds that I so desperately want? Or how are we going to grow the magazine? How are we going to achieve more readers? How are we going to attract advertisers? Or are there perhaps things that we can do differently? And right now there's a disbalance. It varies a bit. So one day I'm working on the business, and then for 2 months, not anymore. But this is always a difficulty when you're building something from scratch. So what I would advise you to do, regardless of how much time you're going to put into it, whether that's an hour a week or maybe 40 hours a week, is really distinguishing, hey, what has to happen on the inside to get the end product that you're building towards? And what do I have to do to work on the business to make sure that you can keep on thriving the way you are? As I said, I was afraid people would only join me with the promise of money. So if there's one thing that I would never do again, it's promise people something that you cannot make true. And that's what I will come back to as well, is there are so many more reasons why people want to join you. And it's not just the financial gain for others. So the art of growing a team, as I said previously, it was the case that people left because I promised them something that I could not make true. So they said, "Hey, I have to spend my time on paid partners or clients. I'll have to leave your team." And oftentimes they felt sorry, but of course, well, I cannot buy anything from sorry. So it was just saying goodbye, wishing them all the best, and falling into a deep hole thinking, how am I now going to find a replacement for that specific person? And when I started digging into this feeling and this idea, I found one thing, and that purpose and passion overrule skills always. So when I started to reach out to people on LinkedIn, in my personal network, on WildHub, just within the people and the network that I had and that I knew, I always wrote down, I'm looking for a writer. What are the skills required? Passion, purpose, nothing else. And of course, I have to build something of quality because that's my aim with the magazine. So whenever I receive someone's email saying, hey, I want to write, yes, I will ask you for a portfolio, or I will ask you for an example of what you can write. But I don't mind if you've never been published in a National Geographic or in an online magazine or whatsoever, or if you've just done that the night before. I want to learn about you and your writing style. And if I can read that there's passion and purpose coming through the words and just really coming off the screen and towards me, then I know I have a really good purple person on the other hand of the line. So for me, purpose and passion are always more important. And if you look on our website, yes, for some roles you do need to have certain skills. I mean, I cannot have a graphic designer that doesn't know how to handle InDesign, which is the design software we use. But it doesn't matter to me if you've worked with it for 20 years or just 2 weeks. For me, it's you need to know how it works so we can teach you. And unfortunately, I don't have the time or the knowledge myself to mentor anyone in that field. But if you have passion, or if you're reverberating with passion, then I'm already saying yes to you and to join the team. Now I can say yes when I'm in a call with someone and I say, hey, you would like to join? Yes, of course, you're welcome. This is my official statement that you're on board. And then comes the second step, which is onboarding, which is perhaps even more crucial for them than it is for me. Because if you send an email with, yeah, you're on board now, just figure it out, they will decide, well, this is not happening. Like they might get lost in overwhelm or in chaos or in unknowing how to do things. So I've decided and I figured out that onboarding for the way we work is super important in keeping people engaged. Making sure that if I say yes to someone on Monday, that they have the onboarding files on Tuesday and not waiting 1 month and having them wait behind their laptops. When can I join? What do they want from me? Just do it right away so they feel, yeah, they feel welcome and they feel like they're really part of the team and you really want them there. So this is one of the things that I learned. It's still something that takes a lot of my time. So I said yes to someone yesterday, for example. A very nice woman from Italy is going to be joining us, but it's going to take me some time this afternoon to onboard her, and I really want her to have those files as soon as possible. Then, as the introduction of my presentation already said, we are a global team. So I actually haven't met many people of the team. So I was in South Africa last year and I got to meet some of my South African team members, which was super special because some of the people in the Netherlands, where I am today, I haven't even met before. So it's always like, hey, if I travel somewhere, I will not travel the world to meet everyone, unfortunately. That goes against my ethics. But it's very nice to meet the people that you work with so closely, actually, to meet them in real life. And to do that online isn't always easy because how are you going to establish a relationship when you're only texting via Slack or something, or you're doing a call just like this? And for me, that is doing short calls every once in a while, maybe every 6 months, maybe every 12 months, and just checking in with them personally. We won't talk Ubuntu at all. We will just be talking about what are they doing in their personal lives. I mean, they're volunteering for us, which means that they're probably doing something alongside it. And I'm just curious to hear what they're doing, how they're doing, and if there's anything that I can do better to make them feel more welcome. So these calls for me are very important to establish and to maintain that relationship with the people that are so far away from me. Another thing that I really do to not only grow the team, but also retain and maintain the people that we have is to present opportunities and chances for growth. As I said, purpose and passion are super important. And recently I had a guy from my team saying, hey, right now I'm a writer and I love doing this, but I have some more time on my hands and I would like to do something different. And I did a call with him, like half an hour call, and he was so full of passion and willingness to learn. And he said, well, I've never actually done any fundraising before, but if I could, I would love to get started on it. And now I'm together with him creating a plan for how to do this. And he wants this opportunity, he asks for it. And I'm only happy to give it to him to say, yes, of course. Like, I mean, if this is what you want and if this is what you're passionate about, then I'm here to support you in whatever capacity possible. And we can learn together. I mean, I have very little knowledge about fundraising, him too. And doing that together really provides us with, yeah, opportunities and growth for the magazine as well. So once again, it humbles me that people are saying, hey, I want to do more and I want to give whatever I have and I want to learn alongside you or within the business. So that is really, really nice to see. And lastly, but that is more like an umbrella thing to think about, is setting a clear vision. I've always asked my team to think with me. So if I have something that I'm struggling with or an idea that I want to share but I haven't fully figured out, I always put it in front of them and say, hey, what do you think of this? And I like that because it feels like I'm part of the team and the team feels like they're part of the process and of our growth. But without setting a clear vision, you're going to lose people. So what I do every once in a while is just telling people where I want to go. If we decide to take a different lane or add a certain column, or if I have different visions for the website or for the magazine, I will make it clear to everyone so they can follow my vision. And that sounds, I think it sounds like you're positioning yourself higher up in the hierarchy and seeing them all as someone beneath you or like your employees. And that's something I'm very careful with because I want to be on that same level and I really want to, well, work with them in a very nice way. But you have to set a clear vision because otherwise they don't know where they're going. And if you get 25 people, which is where we're at right now, all thinking, well, I might go that way and I might go the other way, then in the end, they're not going anywhere at all. So if you're, well, building something yourself, as I said with the mistake I made previously, make sure you have your vision sharp of what you want and be able to reiterate whatever your vision is for the future along the lines. And I mean, that doesn't have to be every week, but it could be every 6 months or every once in a year when you're like, hey, where are we going in the next year or whatsoever? So these are the things that I do to grow the team and to also make sure that the team likes to be with us. Now, the nice thing is, of course, we're talking a lot about the magazine and how I built it, but we've also been able to make some impact. And let's start with the first one. We've been able to create relatability among peers. And that has everything to do with the stories we share. So if I'm thinking about, well, for example, one of the stories that I worked on lately, a guy was feeling very down in his work because he couldn't figure some things out. He was like, hey, there's this blockage basically, or this threshold, which you couldn't cross. And then I knew someone else who had had that same problem previously, and he was able to overcome it. So I connected them both, knowing that, hey, I knew them via the magazine. And because it's relatable what they're experiencing or what they're struggling with, they can help each other. And even though I might not link everyone personally and make sure that there are solutions to problems, I can imagine that the people who read the magazine think, hey, I'm actually not the only one experiencing this or thinking about this. So that's very nice that we can create this. Well, we've been able to create roughly 150 stories so far. So that means that from the very first story that I heard during the Future for Nature Awards, I've been able to share 150 more, which to me is a huge accomplishment and very nice to see a number to the work that we've done. We've been inspiring readers to apply their skill set to conservation, because with every story we try to reiterate everyone can be a conservationist, whether you are actually a doctor or you're trying to become something but you don't have the background of a classic biologist. So that's something that I absolutely love that we can do that. And we've been able to connect, as I said, various organizations with each other, creating opportunities for everyone and realizing growth within their organizations as well. Now, lastly, you can only start or you can only learn if you decide to start. So as you can see, this is the range of magazines that we've launched so far. In 2 weeks, we have the newest one coming up, but this is 14 magazines in a row. Only because I said at one point, hey, I have this vision and I'm going to experiment and I'm going to try to build something that I think would be valuable. Now, it's been a process for me too, and I learned some various skills basically that I think are super valuable nowadays. And one of them is leadership. as I said, I didn't have any business experience, and being able to lead a team of 25 volunteers has been a learning curve that is incredibly steep, but also incredibly rewarding. I had to learn how to trust, because as an entrepreneur with a team, you have to trust in your team to do the work. It doesn't work to just micromanage and keep on saying, "Hey, are you finished with that and that again?" Or just keeping in touch with them every single hour. Trust that the work will get done and that they know how to do it, and be there when they need your help. And that's just, it's been the most extraordinary thing to learn how to step away a little bit and see the team flourish as well. And resilience, because as I said, many team members left me in the very beginning of the magazine, which was a huge valley that I had to go through. But with everything that goes, well, unlike you want it to go, you build a bit of resilience. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts, these skills that I learned through this project, this, well, organization that I built. And having this gift to myself from the past 4 years is, I think, one of the greatest things I could have ever hoped for. Now, I'm here because, of course, not for myself, but to inspire you. So if you have an idea, please get started with it. And my quote is, "Your idea is worth it. Shape it, start it, and share it." So if you're having something in your mind and you think, "Hey, this is something I've been wanting to work on, I just haven't started yet," please do reach out to me if you want to just share your idea. If you need a nudge, if you need anything else from me, we have some time left, not much, I'm very sorry, to discuss your ideas and your questions. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you want to discuss anything further, because every idea is worth exploring. And feel free to ask questions.
Thank you, Manon. It was really inspiring and fascinating. I cannot see any question on the chat box, but if you have any question, feel free to raise your hand. Until then, I have one question, so I would like to put my question first.
Yes, of course.
So, if you look back to where you have come from, what would be the most important learning for you that motivates you personally?
So the most important learning is that life is an experiment. So you can just take things really casually. Like right now, I have some ideas in my mind for different ventures basically that I want to start, but I'm making them very big in my head and I'm scared to start because of, I don't know, it might go wrong. But at the same time, if I look at myself and at Ubuntu, if you just start from a scratch position, to say it like that, you can only learn and you can only build something and you can only feel your way forward, basically. So that would be my biggest learning, is to just take the leap and make sure that you kind of have in the back of your mind what can go wrong, what's the worst that can happen. And oftentimes, that's not much.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful. I can see Joan's hand raised up. So, Joan, would you like to ask question?
John's hand is always raised up. I was going to say, firstly, Manon, if you can stop sharing your screen,
Yes,
we'll
of
be able to see
course.
each other a bit better.
There you
Yes,
go.
faces may appear again. It's not really a question. I just was bursting through that because you're in such a similar situation to conservation optimism. And it's not really a question, just saying, yes, I hear you. Partly on the fundraising thing.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking to a huge funder earlier this year, and she was saying, yeah, everybody loves you guys, but you're part of the infrastructure of conservation. You're helping the whole conservation
Mm-hmm.
effort. And we don't
Yeah.
want to fund infrastructure. We want to fund impact. And in
Yeah.
fact,
I feel
being
you.
honest between ourselves, and assuming no funders are ever going to watch this, they don't even want to fund impact because conservation impact is 5 or 10 years down the line. What they want to fund is fairly visible, fairly tangible outputs and outcomes that they can then report back to whoever they're reporting to. And you can
True.
understand that. It's not really criticism, but it's the nature of the world. It's really hard.
It is.
But the
Yeah.
other thing is we are also a team of volunteers. The only people who are employed are Holly and me. And that's employed by Oxford Uni. And we've got this amazing team around the world, and it's established people like Rashu and a lot of really early career conservationists, and they're all brilliant. And I guess if there was this blog thing we've got coming out this week that kind of tries to sum up exactly where we are this year, I wrote it, and people come back and say, oh yeah, it's lovely to see this, it's lovely to see a sense of direction and whatever. But I put it out round the team, and it's not just giving people ownership, or a sense of ownership, a sense of participation. A lot of people in the team came back with comments on those blogs, and those blogs, all right, I wrote them, but they're a lot better because the team got their hands on them and made them better.
So true.
So we have and I'm sure your team are exactly the same. There's a lot of talent out there and a lot of amazing people.
It's incredible. Yeah, and I really
give them a cause, give them a focus, and some amazing people can come together. And wow,
so true. Yeah, and that's the reason why I want this funding so badly. Like, I mean, I'm happy to continue doing this for the coming 50 years and not earn a dime, but I want them to be reimbursed and for them to realize, hey, what you're doing is worth so much. Like, it's more than just me giving you a pat on the shoulder every week and saying, hey, thank you so much for putting in the time. But I want to show them this work that you're doing, you're really good at it, and I want to motivate you to keep on going and to grow and to prosper. So yeah, it's not easy.
We hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But other people are coming online, so I'll shut up and hopefully some other people have questions.
No worries. So I'm just really curious, is there everyone, or is there anyone with currently an idea in their head that they want to start or want to do, which hasn't come off the ground yet?
I've got about 12, but I wouldn't I? To everybody else, there's only a small group of us online, so feel free to switch your cameras on and join the discussions, because it would be lovely to hear from some people.
Yeah, and if it's uncomfortable, as I said, feel free to contact me personally, and always happy to talk. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Claudia. Nice to see you.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I can't find my hand raise button, but as soon as there was a long pause, I thought I'll jump in.
We're all friends here, muck in.
So me and my partner started a wildlife healthcare and conservation nonprofit in February. So it's still super new. So we've kind of only just started to get things together, but it is just the two of us pretty much. We've got a couple of volunteers going through camera trap data, but nothing kind of substantial. But as our projects are kind of growing, I really related, Manon, to what you said about it's quite daunting actually to bring more people on, because then there's someone else to expect something of you. Obviously, when it's just the two of us, you can kind of, it doesn't matter if you kind of don't grow as much in the first kind of few weeks, few months, few years. But when you start bringing other people on, it's kind of a responsibility and a bit more of a kind of challenge then, isn't it? So I guess that's where we're at, was we want to grow, but also it's a bit daunting, I guess is the word, bringing more people on, especially peers and people who kind of know their stuff and are expecting you to deliver something. There's always that added bit of pressure.
Yeah, it does. And it can be a really vulnerable state, if you ask me, just to be in that position. And well, especially if you aren't fully developed in your idea or in your method or execution, and you have to bring someone on board and say, well, I haven't quite figured it out, but I would like to help me, or help me to do that or to achieve something. It can be vulnerable, and at the same time it's like the most wonderful space to be in, because that's a space to grow. Because if you're all set in your ways, then it might be much more difficult to receive feedback and to grow together.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's amazing. So what are you doing exactly? Because I didn't quite catch that in the beginning.
So it's called Wilder International, and it's a wildlife healthcare and conservation organization. So my partner's a vet and I'm a zoologist, so we kind of cover husbandry and veterinary training,
Mm-hmm.
mainly for sanctuaries and rescue centres abroad in
Wow.
range country. So that's the main bit, and then we've got a rewilding kind of section as well, where we're doing a few rewilding projects in the UK too. So it's a bit, yeah, we kind of haven't streamlined it as efficiently yet, but we're
That's
getting
okay.
there.
Amazing. Amazing.
There's also question mark, trying to get other people commenting, but there's a journey from a personal vision to sharing that vision and perhaps being the leader of a team, to perhaps eventually handing the leadership of that team over to somebody else and watching your baby leave home. And that's almost an exercise in humility, letting go, putting your ego to one side, which is a valuable journey. But at the same time, there's a need for leadership. And as you were saying, the one person with the personal vision who's driving this thing can be really important. They can be the catalyst, the nucleus and the catalyst that takes the whole thing forward. How you
Mm-hmm.
balance those. So you're the leader, the visionary, but not the dictator, not the precious, massive ego who, you know, every time there's an event, there's an award ceremony or something, suddenly you're the person who's there. Yes, it's me. I've seen NGOs, you know, that can be very much like that. And
Mm-hmm.
how you get that balance, it be inspiring, be a leader, and at the same time put the ego to one side.
Mm-hmm.
When you work it out, I'll buy the first copy of your book, please. But
Well, it would be a
tough.
super important or interesting topic to cover in a blog, or even just put it out there as a question mark.
Yeah.
And I think the people who will respond might be shouting the hardest and might not be the people achieving that balance.
Yeah.
Because they might be the people reaching for the awards and standing there and being like, "Hey, this should be me." Um, but I'm just curious to see what kind of responses there will be. Yeah.
Yeah, every time somebody sets up a new NGO, somebody is going on that journey, and
Yeah. So
it
true.
works.
I'm so sorry
If
to
anybody
interrupt.
else wants to come in, it would be lovely to hear from you. Appreciate you may
Uh,
not want to if you're juggling
yeah,
37
I'm so
other things.
sorry to intervene. I want to go on and hear the conversation, but I'm conscious of the time. So, yeah, I think so thank you, Manon. It was really fascinating and very inspiring. But I would like to hand over to Holly
Good.
to end up the session.
And just to reiterate what Reshi said, thank you so much, Manon, for being here today and for your presentation, and to everyone for joining us today as well. As we said earlier, we are recording this webinar, so it will appear on our YouTube channel and our website very shortly. We also really love to hear what you think about our webinars, so Reshu has put a link in the chat. If anyone has the time just to fill out a short survey for us, we'd really appreciate it. We're also really pleased to announce that we have another webinar coming up that will be on the 13th of November, so in just under a month's time. And we will be sharing the details for registration across our social media and website really shortly. So stay tuned for that. And finally, just a little plug from us. We have our Good Natured Conservation Optimism Film Festival coming up next Saturday, the 25th of October. So it is happening in person at the Oxford University Museum of Natural History, but will also be happening online through our YouTube channel as well.
Yes,
so you can tune in online if you're not able to join us here in Oxford. But more information is on our website. I will very quickly put a link in the chat. And we will be releasing more details about the virtual online festival very soon as well. So yeah, hopefully lots of you can join us. But yeah, thank you again to everyone, and we will see you again next time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.